Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to the 25th edition of International Film Festival of Kerala. We never thought this will happen. This festival will happen in these times of difficult times of COVID. Yet we decided to hold it for the sake of film lovers of hardcore film fans of IFFK, and also we are slightly worried about the delegates missing the experience of talking to the director, hearing from the horse mouth. So we decided to plan sessions and want to, what the directors have to say about the films and like that. So here is a session with Prithvi, the director of Pinki Elli, the film Pinki Elli in the Indian cinema now section. Nandini Ramnath, who is part of the selection committee which chose the film, will be talking to him. I welcome all of you to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, IFFK, for this honor, and thank you, Prithvi, for Pinki Elli, which I'm sure has raised a lot of questions in the minds of viewers. So I'd like to start off, Prithvi, straight away by asking you, for people who have watched your previous film, Railway Children, would you say there are themes common between that film and Pinki Elli?
Yes, there are a few themes that are common in my films. You see, generally, when you're dealing with realism and when you're in a country like India, reality is that there is a big section of the Indian population is marginalized, and that is something that you cannot ignore when you're making a film that is especially rooted in realism. So that is something that has been a part of Railway Children as well as Pinki Elli, and hopefully in the future, when I make parallel cinema, I think I'm going to keep that as a part of hopefully all my stories in the future also.
So tell us about Pinki Elli. I know it's a question you've been asked many times before, but was this inspired by real life stories? But also, how much fiction is there in it?
Yeah. See, there was an incident that happened in Bangalore a few years ago. It was in the newspapers, actually. It was in the news. So there was a case where the parents had left a toddler in the with a caregiver, with a maid, with a nanny, and it had come to later. I don't know what exactly happened. I don't remember the details, but it had come to the attention of the parents and the police that the nanny was actually renting out the baby for begging. So this incident had remained in my mind, and this is the real story actually. This part, just the idea of a baby being rented out for begging, that is the true story in the entire script. Everything else is fictional. It's a completely it's a work of imagination and research. Only the inciting, not even the inciting incidents, just the idea of the baby being rented out, that is taken from real life. And I get this question all the time. I mean, whoever has watched the film, for some reason they ask if the entire film is a true story, but it's not. It's a complete work of fiction with the exception of that idea.
Right. So this is every parent's nightmare, right? That something is happening to their child if they're out for work and so on. But does the film also tell us something about the nightmare of Bangalore city itself? Because you've explored parts of Bangalore not usually seen in films about Bangalore.
To some extent, to a very small extent, yes. For example, see, when the story, as you have seen the film, the story goes into slums and different sections of Bangalore. And those are real locations and real people. For example, we shot in a slum where it's a part of the story also, where they, how do you say this, gold dust, they extract gold dust from dirt. So they collect this dirt from from outside jewelry shops, and then they wash it. They wash it in sewer water because water is not available so easily. It's not available anywhere in Bangalore, but it's not so easily available in slums, especially. So they actually use extremely dirty sewer water to wash dirt and extract this gold dust. So this, in a way, you could say that actually this is something that happens. I mean, I have later learned that this happens in almost everywhere in India. They do it all over India, but I don't know if they use sewer water for doing that. But in Bangalore, they do that, in some places. But apart from that, see, I told you about the idea of the baby being rented out for begging. That I have seen that once, or I think maybe once or twice. That's it, not more than that, and also not very recently. So I cannot say that this, as a story is it's about the nightmare of the city of Bangalore.
Yeah, no, I guess for me, as somebody who is an outsider to Bangalore, I just found it interesting in the way in which you explore the city's underside through characters who are usually not seen in the movies. Some of these characters are clearly very desperate, very poor. What role does empathy play in your narrative? Because there are shifting perspectives.
Correct.
It's the kidnapper is initially sort of somebody that you look at with suspicion, and then she has a backstory, and everybody's perspective keeps shifting. So what is the role of empathy, you think, in your narrative?
See, that's a very important thing, because even before I started writing, it was on my mind that at no point should I have a villain in this film. I didn't want to have a negative. I mean, there are shades of negativity with all characters, but I didn't want to have a villain as such. In a way, all of these people are victims of circumstances, their own situations. And if you, since you have watched the film, and the audience also, at no point in the film, no character in the film wants to cause any harm to the baby. They all want to benefit from the baby, that's there, but they don't want the baby to be harmed in any. Even the beggar who takes the baby out, yeah, she does her thing, she leaves the baby and goes out for drinking, that's there. But even she doesn't want the baby to be harmed. And the person who comes to sell the baby for adoption, even they don't want the baby to be harmed. They want the baby to, to get good parents only. So empathy is actually very important, because I think ultimately when you're, say I have made these mistakes in my previous scripts, but now onwards when I create these characters, I know that especially if it has to be rooted in realism, then they have to have shades of gray, but definitely not black and white. We cannot have that. So that means the empathy plays a very major, very important role when you're creating these characters and the circumstances.
So what was the balance between professionals and non-professional actors in your film?
I think with the exception of Akshata Pandavapura and Manjunath, the couple, the husband and wife in the film, all others are non-actors. See, the women, especially the women that we see in the slums, and the women who rents out the nanny, the beggar, all these people are actually from different slums in Bangalore. So we went there, we auditioned them. It's a bit tricky process, but we did that, and then we selected them, and then we had a rehearsal for over, I think, 20 to 30 days. And that's how we were able to bring them together. And then we did a rehearsal with actors and non-actors. We all took a place. We went there, and then we rehearsed for about 3-4 days with because I knew that the non-actors especially would be. They don't mind facing the camera, because they don't care about the camera. They don't even, or they just do their thing. But it's different when they have to act with professional actors. So that is one thing I was afraid of, and that's the reason why we did a bit of rehearsal, with actors and non-actors in the same place. And I think it has worked out. Hopefully, it has worked out.
Did your screenplay change because you were using non-professionals, depending on the workshops that you had with them?
Yes, to an extent, yes. In the sense that, see, overall the scenes or the plot, that usually doesn't change. But what happens is, during the rehearsals and workshop, a lot of things come out when you're working, especially with non-actors. And even with actors, for example, even when we were doing rehearsals with Akshata and Deepak, quite a few ideas came out, and I did include them. But it's not that these ideas are big enough to change the script, the plot, or the characterization or anything like that. But small details in a particular scene, and also especially dialogues, that changes all the time. And I don't impose dialogues on any of the actors, because it just doesn't work when you want them to act naturally in a film that is on realism, based in realism. So what I do is I just ask them to say it in a certain way, and I tell them that this is the meaning that I want. And over a period of time, when we do rehearsals, these things evolve. The dialogues and some minor details evolve, and we include that into the script. We do that, but overall, as a story, as a plot, it doesn't change.
Right. So tell us about how a software engineer decided to chuck the security of a job and go into the adventure of filmmaking.
Well, I never wanted to be a software engineer in the first.
Who does?
No, I mean, I never wanted to do engineering also, but it happened because, that's the formula with which, in which we live, middle class Indians live. So that happened. And when I was working in Cyprus, in Europe, I started writing, mostly targeted towards Hollywood in English. So one of my scripts, it was a horror thriller, actually supernatural science fiction horror thriller, that actually got optioned to be made into a Hollywood film. The film never got made. Yeah, in fact, even a couple of Hollywood actors and a Hollywood director was also attached to that film, to that project. The film never got made, and that the producer, he's from UK. He suggested that I go to New York Film Academy. And at certain point of time, I had to, if I had to pursue this, then I had to quit my job and then plunge into it, no matter, what happens. So I did that. I quit my job. I went to New York Film Academy. I came back. I made a short film that we shot in Sri Lanka with my New York Film Academy classmate. And then I made my first film for the Children's Film Society of India. And then this is my third film. So that's how
Okay.
it was.
Okay. So what experiences would you share with aspiring filmmakers? Because it's not easy at all to do what you've just described.
Right. Well, it always helps to get advice from people that that are in films. I didn't do that. That was one of the mistakes that I did. You should always approach people and just ask for information. Especially, I'm not talking about how to make film, or how to. I'm not talking about the art of filmmaking. I'm talking about the economics and the politics of filmmaking. Especially in my case, I lacked in that. In understanding the politics and the economics of filmmaking. That's where I struggled. So if that is something you feel that is your not your strength, then I think you should seek advice from other filmmakers to understand how the economics works. And see, it's not easy to fund films in the beginning. I'm not saying it's easy now, but it slowly becomes easier after you make each film. It becomes slightly more easier. And funding is the biggest problem for most Indian filmmakers, especially first timers, who want to make films. So look for sources and understand the whole process, especially if you're making a parallel cinema. For example, I'll give you an example. When I made Railway Children, we did not take the film to the film bazaar. That was a huge mistake. Had we taken the film
NFDC Film Bazaar.
Yes, NFDC Film Bazaar, it would have reached, I believe that it would have reached much bigger audience across the world. And even financially, it would have made more sense. But we made that mistake. So such mistakes don't happen when you take advice from experienced filmmakers.
Great. Thank you so much, Prithvi, and I hope Kerala audiences enjoy the other screening of the film as well.
I hope
Thank
so.
you.
And, thank you to you, Nandini, and thank you, Kerala Film Academy and Kerala International Film Festival for organizing this festival successfully, because there are many film festivals. I have one just small request to the audience who have watched the film. If you have liked the film, or if you have not liked the film, please just spread a word about the film on your social media, or go to IMDb, write a small review on the film, rate the film. This generally helps in the promotion of the film. And even if we are going for theatrical release in the future, then these things help a lot. So that's my request to all of you. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.